I am continuing in my reading. What I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am continuing reading in a chronological order, according to event, not according to publication or volume, so I'm skipping around a bit as I move along.
When we continue in our reading now, we'll be reading in section 110. Our last reading was the dedicatory prayer of the Kirtland Temple, as recorded in section 109. I also did a brief description of the dedication ceremony. Now we turn to section 110. Now this is 1 week after. We had the 27th of March was Sunday. This section will be the following Sunday. Now, not much. Everything that goes on between these two sections I really discussed to a large part in my description of the dedication, but there were some minor business going on. And I do find it interesting that Lehman Copley, if you'll recall, he was one that he was partial to the Shakers and was sent with a revelation to give to the Shakers, which was rejected, and he had promised to give his large farm to consecrate it for the settling of the saints in Kirtland, and then reneged on that. He also was in the whole affair of Dr. Philastus Hurlburt. After Hurlburt was excommunicated, he breathed out threatenings against Joseph Smith and was brought up on charges before a municipal court. Lehman Copley spoke against Joseph Smith in that trial. Now, Joseph Smith did actually win that case, but Lehman Copley was opposed to him in it. Now, during this week between the dedication and what we will be reading today, Lehman Copley comes back to Joseph Smith, confesses his error, asks for forgiveness, which Joseph Smith very readily gives, and then requests to be rebaptized into the church because he had been excommunicated for his actions. And as far as I understand, he is rebaptized, although he will, I believe, again fall away from the church. I find it interesting that at this time he came back. Anyways, that's what's going on between the dedication and section 110. And here, in section 110, we have the heading. It states this: Visions manifested to Joseph Smith the prophet and Oliver Cowdery in the temple at Kirtland, Ohio, April 3rd, 1836. Recorded in History of the Church, Volume 2, pages 435 to 436. The occasion was that of a Sabbath day meeting. The prophet prefaces his record of the manifestations with these words: In the afternoon I assisted the other presidents in distributing the Lord's Supper to the church, receiving it from the 12, whose privilege it was to officiate at the sacred desk this day. After having performed this service to my brethren, I retired to the pulpit, the veils being dropped, and bowed myself with Oliver Cowdery in solemn and silent prayer. After rising from prayer, the following vision was opened to both of us. So this Sunday is just a regular Sunday. In the morning there was a meeting. Thomas B. Marsh and David W. Patton both speak, giving very nice discourses. They break for the afternoon, return in 2 in the afternoon, where they partake of the sacrament. This was a fairly common practice up until fairly recently. I think it was like in the 70s or 80s that this practice was discontinued, that you'd have a meeting of instruction, a meeting where you would have talks and everything in the morning, and then in the afternoon or early evening you would return to the church for a sacrament meeting where the sacrament would be taken. Now, it is after passing the sacrament. Joseph Smith receives it from the 12, but he then passes it to the rest of the congregation. Then they go to the pulpit, and the way the Kirtland Temple was designed, the curtains, or as he says, the veils, could be drawn to separate the pulpits from the rest of the congregation. So that's what's happening here. He goes back to the pulpit, draws the veil to separate him and Oliver from the rest of the congregation, and they have a little private prayer, and this is given in response to that prayer. So now let us read section 110. The veil was taken from our minds, and the eyes of our understanding were opened. We saw the Lord standing upon the breastwork of the pulpit before us, and under his feet was a paved work of pure gold, in color like amber. His eyes were as a flame of fire. The hair of his head was white like the pure snow. His countenance shone above the brightness of the sun, and his voice was as the sound of the rushing of great waters, even the voice of Jehovah, saying, I am the first and the last. I am he who liveth. I am he who was slain. I am your advocate with the Father. Behold, your sins are forgiven you. Ye are clean before me, therefore lift up your heads and rejoice. Let the hearts of your brethren rejoice, and let the hearts of all my people rejoice, who have, with their might, built this house to my name. For behold, I have accepted this house, and my name shall be here, and I will manifest myself to my people in mercy in this house. Yea, I will appear unto my servants, and speak unto them with mine own voice, if my people will keep my commandments, and do not pollute this holy house. Yea, the hearts of thousands and tens of thousands shall greatly rejoice in consequence of the blessings which shall be poured out, and the endowment with which my servants have been endowed in this house. And the fame of this house shall spread to foreign lands, and this is the beginning of the blessing which shall be poured out upon the heads of my people. Even so, amen. I'm going to pause a moment there because I want to mention this, that Christ says here that he has accepted of this house. Now, there were angels and everything at the dedication, but this is Christ now directly stating, yes, this is my house, I have accepted it. I have accepted the dedication. During the dedication, I mentioned that Sidney Rigdon gave a 2.5-hour talk in which he compared the state of the Jews during Christ's mortal ministry to the state of modern Christians. And his main point is he quoted when a young man told Christ that he would follow him anywhere. Christ responded by saying, "Foxes have holes, and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man hath not where to lay his head." And Sidney Rigdon said this was Christ stating that even though the Jews had their synagogues and even had a temple, those were no longer accepted of God. Christ was saying that he did not claim those as his house anymore. The temple was no longer his house. Even though he would cleanse it, he would cast out the money changers, because it should have been his house. But because of the unbelief of the Jews, he could not claim it as his, and so he had no place, he had no home. God had no house on the earth at the time. And the same thing was true with modern Christians. His name, he does not claim any of the buildings, any of the churches, any of the cathedrals, any of the magnificent buildings that are built. His name was not on any of them. But he is now saying that he has accepted the Kirtland Temple, and he has placed his name on it. Now, for the first time in almost 2,000 years, God has a place to lay his head. It is no longer that foxes and birds have homes, but God doesn't. For God now has a house on the earth. I liked that discourse of Sidney Rigdon's. But let us finish this out. Verse 11. After this vision closed, the heavens were again opened unto us, and Moses appeared before us, and committed unto us the keys of the gathering of Israel from the 4 parts of the earth, and the leading of the 10 tribes from the land of the north. After this Elias appeared, and committed the dispensation of the gospel of Abraham, saying that in us and our seed all generations after us should be blessed. After this vision had closed, another great and glorious vision burst upon us. For Elijah the prophet, who was taken to heaven without tasting death, stood before us and said, Behold, the time has fully come which was spoken of by the mouth of Malachi, testifying that he, Elijah, should be sent before the great and dreadful day of the Lord come, to turn the hearts of the father to the children, and the children to the fathers, lest the whole earth be smitten with a curse. Therefore the keys of this dispensation are committed into your hands, and by this ye may know that the great and dreadful day of the Lord is near, even at the doors. Feels like kind of an abrupt end there, doesn't it? Like we should have gotten more. But note here, Moses restores the keys for the gathering. Elias comes and restores the keys of the dispensation of Abraham, which is that in you, or in us, and all of our children after us, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. That's the dispensation of Abraham. Elijah then restores the sealing keys, but it is also called a dispensation. Now in the church, most often we use the term dispensation to refer to a period of history in which the keys and authority of God and the true knowledge are dispensed to the men on earth. That's what dispensation is. It is a time of dispensing something. So we dispense it to the earth. God dispenses power and authority. So what does Elijah mean? What does it mean when Elijah restores this dispensation to the earth? Elijah didn't have his own dispensation, not exactly. He kind of had a sub-dispensation of Moses, because they still had the authority. They never lost it, so that it was never in need of restoring the authority in the time of Elijah. So what is this dispensation that he is restoring then? Well, just the term dispensation means to dispense. You are dispensing something. What is Elijah dispensing, or what is he giving Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery the authority to dispense? He is giving them the authority to dispense the power of sealing. And so he is dispensing his power, his keys, to them so that they can dispense these keys to the rest of the church. Now also remember that these sealing keys, a lot of people think that the sealing keys of Elijah are just the keys for the salvation for the dead. This is where now we can do baptism for the dead, which is true. Until Elijah came, we could not do the work for the dead in any way. But the sealing keys are more than just the salvation for the dead. They're even more than the sealing of the family in the temple. When we get married and we are sealed as husband and wife, that is coming from Elijah. But more than that, it is by this power that Elijah restores that all ordinances are sealed. Even a baptism is not truly effective until after Elijah came and sealed, or the power to seal the baptism was given. That is what Elijah restored. He restored the power to seal. Whatever you now seal on earth is sealed in heaven. That's the power of Elijah. That is what has been restored. The power to seal in heaven. Everything that we do on earth that is eternal is made eternal because Elijah restored that power. It is also the power, note, by which Elijah sealed the heavens so that there was neither rain nor dew for 3.5 years. This is the power we're talking about. And why is it Elijah that is restoring this? And we know Moses restores the gathering of Israel because he has the keys over Israel. Before Moses, Israel didn't really exist as a people. They were the family of Jacob. They were a nation under Moses. Before Moses, they were just the family of Jacob. So that's why he has the keys to gather Israel, because just as he gathered them out of Egypt, we now gather them into Zion. Elijah restores the sealing keys because he was the last man among the Jews to hold this power of sealing until Christ. Remember, Moses and Elijah both appeared on the Mount of Transfiguration to restore these very same keys to Peter, James, and John in their dispensation. And now this is Joseph and Oliver's Mount of Transfiguration. They are receiving the same keys that Peter, James, and John received on the Mount of Transfiguration. And Elijah was the last one. That's why he was taken into heaven without tasting death, so that he would still have a physical body, allowing him to ordain and confer these keys onto mortal men. Same thing with Moses. Moses was not dead. No, Moses did not die. He was translated, just like Elijah was, so that he would be able to confer these keys. Now the big question is, who is Elias? Elias restores the keys of the dispensation of Abraham, but he did not appear on the Mount of Transfiguration. So who is this Elias? Now, this is not an Elias in the way that John the Baptist was, or even in the way that Noah was. Noah, when he came as Gabriel, came in the spirit of Elias. John the Baptist was an Elias to prepare the way. Christ was an Elias to restore. Joseph Smith is an Elias, but this just is a man named Elias. Who is he? I've heard the theory that it's Joseph of Egypt. I actually do not agree with that theory, but it is a theory that I have heard. I think that it was a man named Elias that we don't have any further information of. We don't know who he was. Now, if it is a title and not his name, I think the most likely candidate would be Melchizedek, because Melchizedek was also translated. But we don't know. It is a mystery of the Scriptures. But this is getting long enough, so I'm going to leave it here, and we will read section 111 next. So I will see you there.